But as D.C.'s leaders struggle to get the crisis under control, one Democratic councilman is now calling for military intervention.
There's a spirit of anarchy and lawlessness rampant through our communities. I've never seen this onslaught of violence portrayed on our women and our kids. And enough is enough.
Enough is enough.
We are clearly in a war zone. So I have spoken with the D.C. National Guard. And while I have to have more conversations with the chief of police, which I have today, and the mayor and my colleagues, we have a long way to get there. We just know that police alone is not getting it done. We're simply asking our federal partners for help and presence in our community because we know that officers who have a handgun can combat 3 people with AR-15s and AK-47s shooting down the street.
And on the West Coast, Oakland, California is dealing with a crime surge of its own. The local chapter of the NAACP is blasting city leaders, calling on them to declare a state of emergency. And many residents there are scared. And the city's solution to the rising crime is not comforting.
Can't take it anymore. I got to the point I was too scared to leave my house.
Robberies, burglaries, and rape are all up by double-digit percentages. Everyone we talk to says it doesn't matter your race, your income, everyone seems to be a target.
The fact that I am being pushed out because I emotionally can't take it anymore is horrible.
Oakland police recommended steel braces for residential doors and air horns.
The idea is if you set it off, your neighbor would hear it, set theirs off, and more people are alert that there's danger.
Secretary, I was born in Oakland, California, and raised right nearby, and it was heartbreaking for the community when the Raiders left, but it's more heartbreaking now when you see there the raw emotion that is affecting every resident, regardless of skin color, regardless of income, a city that is falling apart in its own demise.
Yeah, the most sacred duty, the primary purpose of our government is to keep our families safe. I was a former federal prosecutor. My dad was a Philly cop after serving in the Navy. We have to keep our families safe. So when I hear the councilman, when I hear that woman leave Oakland, it breaks my heart. I will tell you, though, it's a combination. It's not just the cops, but it's the prosecutors. To know that that councilman in Florida's case, in D.C.'s case, where they let the person go. In D.C. right now, they let go of 67% of the people they arrest within 24 hours. That's not right. We got to prosecute them. If they break the law, we got to keep our families safe. So in cities like Philadelphia, where I'm from, we have a great governor in Josh Shapiro. The actual murder rate in Philadelphia right now is down 20% this year, so that's positive. But we need leaders like Josh Shapiro, like Westmore in Maryland, that's doing what's necessary to keep our families safe and move the ball forward.
It's interesting, Kayleigh, your former boss, when he was traveling to D.C., recently commented on how deteriorated the city had become. And I'm curious, how is it that the lawmakers can go to work every day as it falls apart around them and not acknowledge the cesspool, the frightened residents, that attrition rate, the recidivism rate that is occurring all around them in that violent city?
Because Democrats, in many ways, are trying to have it both ways. You have more moderate Democrats, some of whom Patrick just named, but then you also have this further left movement that keeps pulling the party left. And you see that in Chicago, where it's hard to believe you could get someone more radical than Lori Lightfoot, but bring in Mayor Johnson. You see that with the D.C. crime bill, where you had the city council. Carjacking is up 111%. So what does the D.C. city council think is a good idea? Oh, let's lessen the penalties for carjacking. But you have, I think, best typified in President Biden and in Chuck Schumer, this crisis of conscience, where you have to appease the far left, but at the same time act rationally, where Biden initially said, I may veto legislation from Republicans pulling back the D.C. crime bill. And Chuck Schumer, to quote him directly, he said it was a close question as to which way he'd fall. So when you try to be beholden to the left, but also try to embrace common sense, it's a tricky political space. Just ask Abigail Spanberger, who noted that on a call. We can't say defund the police, she said.
Right, which we went through in Portland, Oregon, where you went to high school. You also have a law enforcement family. And that, too, absolutely represents a deterioration of a city because of those left-wing policies.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the cops, the mayors, and the prosecutors are all at odds with each other. And they're all trying to blame each other. So who's caught in the crossfire? These lower income neighborhoods where there aren't enough cops to respond to the calls. And in somewhere like Portland, where the rate to respond was about 8 minutes before when you made a 911 call, and now it's over 24 minutes. It's a longer wait time in places like Memphis and Detroit, and it's people in those underserved neighborhoods are the ones that are the victims of these crimes. So they're really frustrated. That's why you see that woman in Oakland, and that's what breaks my heart, because they feel like they have to give up on these cities. And, you know, these were once great cities. There has to still be something good there. But unfortunately, they're the victims of bad policy. And I look at these liberal mayors, these leftist DAs, and I think you are doing it wrong. There's a way to keep people safe and to keep these incredible cities livable. But unfortunately, they are all in a death loop. So are we going to let them die, or are people finally going to stand up and vote differently in these places?
Yeah, it's a good point. And it isn't indiscriminate. I mean, everybody can get hit by crime. Anybody can. But it's particularly those low-income neighborhoods. They're the targets in most cases. They suffered the most when cities, blue cities, were defunding police. Those are the areas that needed the most. You're a Democrat. And I hear you, like that D.C. city councilman, White Jr.,